I saw noticed lot of lifestyle disorders. There are a lot of job responsibilities, so there is a lot of money earned, but at the same time, health is not earned. I have always been a believer that you need to lead by example. When I was 57, there was a transformation challenge globally. So I participated in the senior. It was 50 plus. I was 57. So I thought, let me participate and then see what I could do. I was able to finish actually as a first runner-up in that. Low back problem, especially person like me who's been in IT for a long time. Low back problem, shoulders would start to droop like this, upper cross syndrome, what we call it. That starts happening. I'm kind of biased toward this person, but maybe if Bruce Lee was doing that, probably he would do 3 in all 7. I like to be very straightforward. I always tell people that when you see the advertisement, 20 days abs, or you are going to, it's not going to happen because it did not happen that way. I did not put on a weight in a month, so it's not going to drop in a month also. It's a process, it's hard work, and it's consistency. Can you give me a workout that helps me reduce the abs? It doesn't happen that way. Fat loss happens all over the body. And I tell them, don't be discouraged. Everyone has abs and everything. It's just the fat around it that we need to help make disappear. 60 years for an old person can do it. You have definitely a long way to go and lot of potential. My youngest client was a 15-year-old. The oldest person I have trained is 91. I always recommend a person not to eat less. I always recommend them to increase activity. It takes at least 12 weeks to see any visible effects based on my experience. So we always start with a 12-week plan. I always start with a conservative approach and then take it from there. The more take away, or the primary factor is if I am able to make person's life better, that's the primary aspect.
Welcome back to What's a Pro. Today we have a guest who made a leap from bites to biceps. Meet Nitin Patwardhan, an IT pro turned full-time fitness professional. After over 25 years in the tech trenches, Nitin swapped IT infrastructure for fitness infrastructure and IT risk management for health risk management. Now, as a fitness professional, nutrition coach, and movement assessment specialist, he is all about helping others smash their health and fitness goals. Get ready for some serious insights and inspiring stories as we dive into Nitin's epic career switch and discover how to turn your passion into profession. Let's give a warm welcome to Nitin. Welcome, Nitin, to What's a Pro.
Thank you, Gayatri, for having me, giving me that opportunity.
Sure. Let's start with your IT journey. So you had a long 25 years of IT career. Tell us about your IT journey first.
So what happened is my basic background, my bachelor's is in architecture. And then while I was doing architecture, I came across something called CAD, AutoCAD. And then later on, I realized that I was not really into architecture, but I kind of got fascinated by the CAD, the AutoCAD approach, computer-aided designing, drafting, all that stuff. And then I was simply amazed what it could do. So what I did was later on, I thought, I would just use that rather than doing a practicing in architecture. So that's what I learned. Essentially, I learned it myself. And then slowly, I was approached by a few friends of mine who were my senior colleagues too. And then I started providing the computer related services to them, like designing, drafting all the plans and other stuff. And while I was doing that, they had a new computer setup. So there used to be some issues sometimes with the computer. And then I started fixing them without even knowing. Then I told myself that looks like, I'm in IT basically while doing that. And then while in India, I got myself into working as sort of an IT professional to the extent of installing just the OSs and fixing like computers in small offices and all. So that helped me when I came to US, and that's how my journey in IT here started. So my first job was with United Nations, UNICEF,
Oh,
uh, in the data center, and then that was my first flavor to a US IT job, and based on which then later on I worked with UN for over 14 years,
wow.
about 14 years.
Wow.
Then from a non-profit environment, I got myself into a totally different environment, which was the financial. So that started with when I had an opportunity to work with Citigroup.
Wow.
Then after until I switch my career, I will not say I'm retired because I'm still active. So I will say I switch my career again later part of my life. So until that, I remain in the financial industry. So the journey started from infrastructure management to information risk management later on. So that's how the progression was. During the meantime, I also did my master's from Carnegie Mellon University, IT management. And before that, City University. It was a technical uh, computer related master's degree because I wanted to get myself fully reinforced in IT, possibly better job opportunities and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
So that's how the IT journey was basically. And then I realized that when I turned 55, I always had some fascination with fitness. And the main reason was my grandfather. So he had an earning kind of mechanism. So what he did, I used to love reading books. So he said, I'm going to give you this particular book, but if you want to get that book, I'm not going to just give you that as a present. You got to do a certain set of what we call Indian push ups and squats. So if you do that for a certain number of time, like it was 6 months, then you are going to get that book and something more.
Oh,
So because I wanted to read it, I was very much keen to read that those particular books. I had no choice to then getting myself, doing Indian push-ups and squats and all that kind of stuff. And then that's how I started. I started liking it, and then so that's how my inclination towards fitness is. This was when I was 8 or 10 years old, I think.
so you have a quite a big roller coaster, right? Going from architecture to IT, from UN to city, like financial.
Mhm.
How did you move to fitness professional, like as a profession? How did you that's a complete switch of career itself.
Correct.
So when and how did you decide to take that leap?
So what happened is since the beginning, my childhood, as I mentioned before, I was into fitness because of my grandfather was very much into that. And on my mother's side, both my mother and more specifically my grandmother, she was a swimming and yoga teacher for over 40 years. And she used to do weight training even in her those days in the, so that's why what was the influence on me.
Mhm.
And it kind of reinforced on me the need to keep yourself healthy and fit so that you are able to do all the daily activities in life more efficiently,
Right.
basically. And you that helps you be independent as far as possible. So that was always there because of those influences, and I was always into fitness, though not very consistently in those days. But as soon as I turned 55, I felt more of a need to improve myself because of the age factor of 55, voluntary retirement and all that kind of stuff. Also, I saw noticed a lot of lifestyle disorders around because when we there are a lot of job responsibilities, so there is a lot of money earned, but at the same time health is not earned as proportion to the money that and during that process I see all around, including myself, that we are not paying attention to necessarily maintaining the health and surrounding in the family, some environment, some experiences with lifestyle disorders and all that kind of emphasize the need for me to kind of do this as a part time and give it a try. So as soon as I turned 55, I was able to get a position uh, in a health club at South Plainfield, the club at Ricochet. And there I first started learning formally the aspects of personal training at fitness, all that kind of stuff. So that's how actually the journey started for me, a formal journey.
Right. But then what made you switch it like completely, like switch the career? Like you could have done continued like this as a part-time, but you
Right.
completely switched from IT, right? You
Mhm.
quit your job, you completely shifted here. What made you do that? Like,
So initially, I did not want to go all in because there were some practical aspects also when you have kind of a secure job and when, as far as the fitness industry is concerned, it's not as if I was 25 and started venturing into that. So my age factor, it's a benefit, but it's a drawback too because you have not started quite early in that. So, and then some anxieties, of course, as we age, there are some anxieties, some doubts, self doubts that arise. So I wanted to move cautiously, although there had to be some sense of aggression. I didn't want to go all in. So that's why what I did, I used to do my full time IT related job. And in the evening time, I did this for a while part time. Then I uh, thought that, this is something I'm really liking to do. And when I noticed that in one way or the other, I'm making a positive impact on some people's life, the way they are moving better, they are feeling better about themselves. And then told myself, this is really worth getting into that. So I switched completely that time also. But then I again got some opportunities in IT. So I kept on going there. And then again did this for as a side aspect of it. Some part time in IT, some in fitness, all that kind of stuff. But I continued doing that. And what happened is another event was I have always been a believer that you need to lead by example. So there was a transformation challenge when I was 57. There was a transformation challenge globally. It was from an Indian company like INFS or Squats, what they call basically. and then fitter was the new name. So basically, all the participants from all over the world were allowed to participate in, and there were different age groups. So I participated in the senior, we say, 55 plus, but for that particular competition, it was 50 plus. I was 57. So I thought, let me participate and then see what I could do. And luckily enough, I was able to finish actually as a first runner up in that.
Oh,
So, so that was kind of a turning point. I thought, if I can transform myself at the age of 57, why I can help anyone do the same. And then uh, I turned 58, and that's when I started asking myself serious question. My wife has been an immense support all this journey. And in India, I heard the conventional kind of age, retirement age is 58. So when I turned 58, then I had a discussion with my wife that I told her that, I've been doing this and that, uh, both ends to some extent, but looks like I really like to do this. So, do you have any objections or anything if I want to just do this as a full time? And as supportive as she whenever is, she said, at this point of time in your life, you just need to do what you love to do. And then that was it basically. So then I decided, fortunately enough, as soon as I turned 58, I got a life job as a fitness professional lifetime in Princeton. So that's where I am at this point as well.
that's amazing. So, how did you prep yourself to get into this as professional coach or fitness professional? Like, did you go back to school, like college, any certifications? Like, how did you prep yourself?
So when I started at the club at Ricochet, I wasn't certified at that time. So the limitation was I was allowed to like meeting initially with people, but I could not train them because the rule was, as it suppose should be, that I should be certified. So the first step was to get myself certified formally in fitness industry. And I went for the popular National Academy of Sports Medicine, the NASM certified personal trainer. That certification, that was the initial point. So that's how I studied for the exam. I got myself certified. We also used to do movement assessments. So that's in club at Ricochet. So I got very much interested in doing that as well as providing the fitness, the training services. So that was the starting point. Later on, I did a diploma in nutrition and fitness sciences. And then, in addition to that, I did a movement assessment certification and a nutrition coaching certification because it's not just about fitness, it's health, and health includes fitness as well as, more than that, basically. So, nutrition and movement and just the weight training, they all comprise of health as a holistic approach. So that's why I got certified in all three.
Oh, so what is movement assessment? Like, can you elaborate?
Absolutely. That's my one of my favorite topic, and thank you for asking me that question. So what happened is training and everything when people say weight training, muscle group like chest, back, and then legs and bicep and tricep, that's perfectly all right. But what happens? There are, I mean, muscles are the ones that make the movement possible, right? And for all people, uh, even when we are kids until we are old, uh, we all move. So that's a common factor for everyone, every living person, that all move. And the objective is to be able to move as efficiently as we can. And what happens is, if we see the progression of a kid, uh, the child is not able to get up on its own, but then it slowly starts, getting up on its own. Then it's going to crawl, it's going to stand, and it's going to run. So the whole process at that particular point, the movement patterns are learned so well by the kid, that we are simply amazed sometimes when we look at them, how mobile they are, like, so elasticity and everything. What happens is, as we age, life situations, our profession and whatnot, we kind of lose the ability to move. The movement patterns, they are lost. We also tend to get lose our symmetry or imbalance. For in my specific example, I had a tendency to give more stress on my left leg while I'm standing, rather than staying in a neutral position, equally balanced. So that we lose all symmetry. We are not able to move efficiently. Then low back problem, especially person like me who's been in IT for a long time, low back problem, shoulders would start to droop like this, upper cross syndrome, what we call it. That starts happening.
Yes.
So the objective is to go back to that initial position, and uh, to minimize the asymmetries or the imbalances as much as possible. So the movement assessment, that approach was devised by a conditioning specialist, and Gray Cook, he was a physio, and Michael Boyle. They came up with a functional movement system. So what it's done is, we put the body, human body, and it has to be a go ahead by a physician or a doctor, because before we do this assessment, so we put the body in seven movement patterns. We try to put the body in kind of challenging position, and then notice how the body behaves. What are the imbalances? What do we see basically? Based on what we see, then when I'm training a client, particular client, I do the movement assessment even before starting any kind of workout with a person, because movement assessment tells me which workouts or which program I can just go ahead without any precaution, which workouts can go but with exercising some caution, or sometimes we got to altogether avoid doing something, because we want to move well before we move more. And people kind of seem to lose that. We just move more and more, but we are not able to move well before, the fundamental patterns. So they need to be trained uh, better before we move. Otherwise, there are a lot of chances of injuries. So that's what the movement assessment is done. It's scored from 0 to 3. 3 is a perfect score. Everything, like, is perfect in that movement pattern. 0 is pain. So even if I am very efficient in a particular movement, but if I notice some pain in that, we grade it at 0. So the idea is to have it to an acceptable 2, a middle ground, basically. And that has been, I have found it very much useful whenever I start with a program, with anyone, basically.
Have you met anyone who has met like 3, who is at the 3 level?
3, there are not a person who has done all 3 in all 7. I'm assuming I'm kind of biased toward this person, but maybe if Bruce Lee was doing that,
Oh,
Probably he would do three in all seven,
right.
but not, there are some patterns, everyone does a three, but not a perfect score in all seven.
No. So how frequently you keep checking what level they are?
So I am certified level one and two in addition to my personal training, NASM.
Mhm.
So as a certified professional, I have the ability to load a app like movement assessment app.
Mhm.
So what I do is I will do the movement assessment on a person before we start. There are some corrective exercises like making the movements better that
Mhm.
we do when we do our regular training session. And then after 2 or 3 months, I will typically revisit. Or sometimes what happens is because of all the years of experience, I can just figure out that a movement pattern is really increased because all the workouts are geared towards that changing movement pattern.
Right.
So I used to do in terms of exercise modalities, I used to believe in, oh, we have to do a chest workout, we have to do a back workout or legs and all that. But now the philosophy has changed. Now I tend to look at a bigger picture and I look at it as we need to improve the movement pattern. And what happens is, as a person, as a any human being, we can do 5 or 6 kind of movements in our daily life. We push when we are pushing something, we pull, like we have to pull a drawer or something out, we pull. We rotate when we have to look around. For example, I'm doing that like this. We squat when I'm sitting in a chair, we are squatting essentially. If I have to pull something towards me, without me knowing, I do a hinge, hip hinge basically. I hinge at the hips, and we typically carry our grocery bags. So those are 5 or 6 movements a human body is able to do, and we do that in 3 planes of motion. Most of it is like this, what we call a sagittal plane. Other movements are horizontal, which we call like a frontal plane, and then transverse plane, which is the rotation.
Mhm.
So, and then we also have to kind of make our core strong. There has to be a power movement when we do that. But essentially, a 5 or 6 movement patterns. So each of my workout includes these kind of training patterns. And again, muscles make the movement possible. So at the background, all the muscles are being worked on. But it's about looking at an overall picture. Objective is to move as efficiently as we can. And
Mhm.
whatever training is done, it has to be useful in daily life.
Right. So nowadays, if most of people have job that is like sitting job the whole day, that how does that affect the moment and thing?
So most of them, they lose hip mobility. So what happens is there are, including me, I'm a victim of that too. When I wasn't aware, I said I have a low back problem. But what happens is more often than not, it's about we losing a hip mobility.
Mm.
And so low back has to work for itself, which is providing stability as well as doing the role of providing mobility because we are losing hip mobility. So it's like someone works overtime, they tend to get tired, as simple as that.
Right.
So it so that's how it affects like a sitting desk job, shoulders, the posture and everything just gets inefficient.
Mm. So any tip for people who are sitting at their desk the whole day?
Everyone should move basically, and then all the people should do these kind of movements that we do in a daily life. but it has to be done consciously. Whatever workout or activities we do, they should be comprising of these particular movements that a person can do. And I would say uh, one should start standing in a neutral position, meaning that shoulders back, chest automatically comes out. Then you want to balance on both feet and try to stand straight, basically. So that a person can do as a beginning, and then just walk more using that posture. uh, I would say carry something and try to walk having enough load in both hands. They can do there are varieties of carries that we do, but as a beginning, a person can do that, like carry heavy stuff and then just walk with the posture straight.
Any strategies do you use to build trust in your clients so they keep coming to you all the time?
So basically, what I do, if I have a particular person in what we call a goal setting session, everyone, I am a big believer in data, and so is everyone, right? I mean, we need quality is definitely one aspect, but that's later on. We need a quantity. So what I do is I have a qualitative analysis done before. Like we have something called in body. It measures the weight, the muscle mass, body fat, and the amount of hydration and everything. So that's a benchmark for me. If people say, I like to be very straightforward. I always tell people that when you see the advertisement, 20 days abs, or you are going to, it's not going to happen because it did not happen that way. If I did not put on a weight in a month, so it's not going to drop in a month also. It's a process, it's hard work, and it's consistency. So that's how I started that. And there are no shortcuts, basically. And then that's how I start. My age kind of is a big advantage for me, because I say that, if I was able to do, I'm above 60 now. So if I was able to do or kind of move well, relatively well, not perfect, then why can you not? So, and if I can do that, I'm confident that I will be able to help you do that also. So that's how I start. Then I have some documentation done for myself, which I share with the client, that it has to be a process. And then always I ask them to give an input, fill in an input form. Basically, I want to know what are their food habits, if there are any lifestyle disorders. Then there is an adherence kind of a documentation too, because I always tell them that uh, it's not, you are on not on your own this particular journey. It's a team of at least two, and you are accountable, but so am I, basically. So that's what I try to do, basically.
Mhm.
And then my experience is, after the movement assessment and a couple of sessions, uh, I have been able to keep clients for a long time.
Mm. How do you motivate them for daily activities to follow their nutrition?
So the motivation is basically there is an adherence spreadsheet. So I put them to task also. Whoever, there is, I encourage them to say, kind of do a weekly measurements, because what I tell them, that it's basically, it's not going to happen in a day or two. It's a process. Another notion is, can you give me a workout that helps me reduce the abs? So that's a common one I get, or we get, basically. So it doesn't happen that way. Fat loss happens all over the body. And I tell them, don't be discouraged. Everyone has abs and everything. It's just the fat around it that we need to help make disappear, and you will be on your way. And then again, I say, if 60-year per old person can do it, you have definitely a long way to go and lot of potential. Movement assessments and all, we always know that they are getting better. So I give inputs related to that also, and kind of give them an assurance that, it will happen. Just trust the process.
You make it sound it's so easy, like it's going to
It
happen.
just And what happens is there are results when we go quantitative analysis, when we revisit the measurement aspect of it, they would feel there is a difference in what than when they started. If they feel that, they automatically get motivated. As an example, one of my client who's kind of younger, he's just 36, but we started over 225 when we started. In 4 months, we have been, or he has been able to reduce the weight about 20 pounds. More importantly, the body fat is reduced by 9%. And he is able to keep the same amount of muscle mass. That's my very latest success story. But there are with some ladies also, they have been able to put on muscle, lose about 7 to 8% of body fat. So if they feel, they automatically are able getting motivated. It is just that, some people, they have to keep it consistent, basically.
So men and women, their work, or like their plans are different, right? When you make any plan for woman, and when you make any plan for a man, how do you differentiate? Like everything is different, their metabolism, their physics. How do you manage that?
So what happens is, it's not very much different. It just, the definitely when we start, men have more muscle and all, but it's like when I'm running with someone, I would be 10 steps ahead at the start. And if there is a lady, she will be 10 steps behind. But if I stay idle, she is going to overpass. So at that time, after that, they are able to gain muscle and everything as efficiently, almost as efficiently as a man can. So I do not necessarily change any workout based on whether it's a man or a woman. It basically depends on what the initial movement assessment tells and what their goal is. And then more or less all workouts are same for man and woman, depending upon if their goals are similar. If sometimes what happens is, if I have trained, my youngest client was a 15-year-old. The oldest person I have trained is 91.
Wow.
So it's wide. So their goals are different. For a 91 or a 65, there was a person who had gone through a bypass surgery and all that kind of. So he was not looking to gain muscle or anything like that. He just had to be active, and we just needed to have him having confidence in that. So he was a bit hesitant before, to do any kind of workout. After a few months, he was looking forward to coming to the gym. So in that case, the goal is completely different. And then the same kind of workout, same kind of rule or approach will not apply. But if there are, I have trained some even ladies who have been marathon runners, or people who are tennis players who want to play golf better, who want to do mountain climbing and all that kind of stuff. So depending upon the goal, I will put more stress on making that particular movement better. So if one person has to play golf, then I'm going to focus, make sure that I put at least some related workout or a pattern when we do that particular session. If it were marathon, then more endurance or more conditioning, that kind of stuff. Mountain climbing or everything, more grip training. So that would, of course, vary, but there is no uh, a lot of difference when I'm training up a man or a woman, because both have similar abilities to gain muscle and get better.
So when you say goals, who decide the goals? The clients come up with the goals that, like, mostly they have goals like losing weight, and then it happens that the trainer will say, "Oh no, more than losing weight, you need to gain muscles." So who decides the goals?
The client and me, when I'm working with a client, it's a approach the client and me. I help the client define the smart goal, measurable goal. Most of the times they want to lose weight, but I stress it, I cannot stress it enough that the goal should not be primarily losing weight, it should be losing fat, because weight will be reduced as an end product, byproduct. We have to create some weight deficit. But what happens is most of the people, or a majority of the people, I would say, and again, I would include myself, when I started, I just do more cardio, more treadmill and all that kind of stuff. So do we lose weight? 100%, but we lose fat too. And when we lose fat and lose weight, we lose muscle too. That's what I meant. Not just the fat, but the muscle also. So when we lose muscle, then the body metabolism gets kind of messed up, because the basal metabolic rate, something we call to keep ourselves, which is barely sufficient, or which is the minimal needed for the body to do its daily activities. So that gets reduced if we don't do strength training or some kind of muscle training. And then, so there will be many people who would say that they are eating very less for a considerable amount of time, but they do not see any loss of weight, because the body is very smart. It's going to keep, it needs to protect itself. And then that's when what has to happen is we have to kind of change the nutrition pattern, add a more muscle, weight training, resistance training workout, so that we tweak the metabolism, basically the BMR. And then I always tell them, when a person says, I want to reduce weight, I say, yeah, we will reduce weight, but we will reduce weight by losing fat and gaining more muscle. And do not, I always recommend a person not to eat less. I always recommend them to increase activity, because that's how the more efficient way of creating a deficit. For weight loss to happen, there has to be a deficit between what we eat and what we burn, basically, what we consume and what we burn. But the consumption should not be compromised. That we will see, you must have seen a lot of people go for like minimal amount of diet, calories and all that kind of stuff. And that's not good in a long term, basically. We need to move more, be more active. That's our goal is devised, basically. It takes at least 12 weeks to see any visible effects, based on my experience. So we always start with a 12-week plan. I always start with a conservative approach, and then take it from there, basically.
Mm. So now these smartwatches and all, people are like, oh, I they set goals like walking 20,000 steps, walking 10,000 steps. What do you have to say about that?
It's definitely useful. Uh, Walking definitely is useful, because that's a way of your energy utilization. But in addition to that, a person should also emphasize on strength training again, you know, resistance training, strength training. It can be, I mean, done many ways. but it becomes much easier and time efficient when we do that using weights, because there is an external force we add, make use of external force. So it becomes more efficient. And then the matter of fact is we all lose muscle, whether we like it or not. We don't like, of course. And the way to retain or gain is to do weight training, eat more kind of protein, not ridiculous amount of protein, but we need to have a fair amount of protein consumption coupled with weight training workouts. And then when that happens, it does affect on a reduction in body fat.
Right. Have you come across any difficult client?
There have been some people who go through a lot of reading and all, have gone through a lot of diet. They don't want to do that. So I really do not force anyone, because my job is, the way I see my job is, I am going to give my advice and basically tell them why they should not do that, what has worked, and give some other examples and everything. And they have come around basically. But there have been instances that they are believing in what, their approach, and I just respect that, and then I just leave it at that.
Yes. That's the easy way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there is a thin line between, trying to emphasize a point and pushing someone than what you should. And everyone, I believe, everyone is adult. They know what they want to do, and after a certain point, I should not be pushing someone, because it may have even undesirable effect.
Yeah.
At that point, I don't do that. But there are very few examples of that, fortunately.
Mhm. So, what special skills do you think any fitness professional needs, other than this certification and all? But like you have to keep your cool, your temperament. Uh, you need to be motivating.
So the professional, basically, we need to have our goals. Our goals. I mean, my goals. I have to be honest with my goals, that why I'm doing this profession. I want to make a positive impact on someone's life. And so if that's clear, then what I have to do? I have to be as professional as we can. So time, being on time, punctuality is the biggest aspect of it. Then when we are in a particular session, we have to be in that. Basically, there should not be a distraction and everything. So my whole approach has to be, to manage, so that I'm giving complete attention to the person and just do my best, basically. So, and believe me, I have noticed it, when we do that, people also realize that this particular person really wants what is good for us, basically. So the professional, basically, being able to define goals, being able to be more cognizant of what a person feels. And then they I have seen certain sessions that we have not done an activity as such, because what happens is, some people, they are going through some situations, they just want an out, they want to just share that with a person who they can trust. So at that point, we have to realize that, whatever we read, whatever all the technical aspect has to be out. We just have to be patient, receptive to what the person feels, and listen more, give some inputs, and then that way get them to motivate to certain things. And that's going to happen with experience, not just personal training experience, and with own life experience. And I think being over age of 60 does help towards that.
It's not easy to directly approach a fitness professional, like, right? They
Mhm.
have to go through gyms or take gym membership, and then overall it becomes too expensive. Like,
Correct.
and then that kind of demotivate people to take professional help. What do you have to say about that?
Uh, so what I have done before, and I have always personally, what I have always been open about. I work as life at lifetime. So if a person is a lifetime member, they have to train with me through lifetime only. And otherwise, also I have uh, done something like that. Whoever people they ever since I joined lifetime, I have always insisted that they should work through lifetime only with me. But in addition to that, in our group or wherever, I'm always open to provide some suggestions, some kind of a voluntary work and all, recognizing that. And the way I used to train some people at their home also before COVID hit, and when I was not at lifetime. So it was I used to go to their place and teach them like that. So that all option is always open, and there are a lot of initiatives. There are group classes, I would say. The people, they don't necessarily have to always do a one-on-one training. There are group classes, and but very straightforward. Being very straightforward, a person can do some introspection that okay, investing in health, there are like limitations, financial limitations mostly, that people cannot really afford to do that. But are they doing some kind of investment in outside eating and all that kind of stuff? You know, so are they justifying that aspect of it?
Right.
So and I see uh, the priorities. What's the priority basically? That's what I would say. But
So
I have done in Marathi Vishwa. There was an initiative during COVID time. Marathi Vishwa came with a 10-week kind of each week a professional would provide some input, some insight on that. So I was participating in that. I'm always open to, as far as I'm concerned, I have always open to give some workshops or something like that also. If
Mhm.
there is a real need, then I would not think money as an option, because as far as I am concerned, and what happens is, as a fitness professional, you really do not get, as far as I am concerned, as comparable money as say in IT job or something like that. So the for me, the more takeaway or the primary factor is if I am able to make person's life better, that's the primary aspect of it. Though money is also necessary and important, that's not the primary driver.
this is more rewarding that you're making change in somebody's life.
Correct.
Right.
And there are a lot of uh, group classes or something. If people are like stressed for money, if for example, I would say they can work with someone as a at least for some time, and then start their journey on their own, because the trial and error method in this case may prove costly, because health is important. Some people, we work out in a different way, and their the health, some back hurts or all that kind of stuff, that may happen.
Right. Right. Are there any myths about being a personal trainer?
In the sense,
Like, uh, like people think uh, all the personal trainers are the same. So even if I watch something on some videos and I follow them, that's fine. I don't have to have a personal, like personal, what do you call, uh,
Trainer.
personal trainer, or I don't need my like customized packages for me. And then they just follow somebody else's package. So, do you think that's the right thing to do?
It depends. I mean, if if a person has done considerable amount, like foundational pattern and everything themselves, and if the goals are just being active and all that kind of stuff, and there are financial constraints, then it's absolutely something better than nothing. But ideally, if a person is not that much exposed to doing something like that, I would say at least initially they want to work under some guidance. Like we go to school, right? We can do a self reading, all that kind of stuff, like certifications and all. But why we go for some guidance? Because uh, we are just guided that way, what to do, what not to do. So likewise, to learn some movement patterns, at least initially, I think it's a good way to work with someone, and then do their on their own. As far as each personal trainer being the same, yeah, I mean the exercise workouts are same, how are they are done, and what do you get outside just the workout. That would differ from person to person, motivation factor and other stuff, you know.
So, focusing on your own health, your like, you know, how has this changed you as a person for your well-being?
That's an excellent question, because what happens is that this profession makes me more accountable than I would have been if I was not in this profession. Because then that puts myself, I put myself at task. Because then if I say, if I do not do certain thing myself, what right do I have to say to other people? So that's a big change. So I have to follow a certain consistency. And I think it has also, I also realized that because of I do all that, I'm able to move better. My quality of life seems to be better when than if I was not just sitting idle, and not sitting idle, sitting just doing a desk job. I would not have been able to move as much, or find myself functionally as efficient as I am right now.
Mhm. So, do you find time for your own workout?
I do. I mean, I have to. So, what I typically do is after the training sessions are done, then I try to do a workout on my own, two or three times a week. That includes a strength training session, couple of times cardio.
Mm.
Cardio meaning conditioning, not exactly a lot of treadmill and all that kind of stuff. But I do use cardio machines and overall conditioning. My own workouts, they include a lot of metabolic, like conditioning workout also. I just uh, focus on more intensity. So that's one thing when I train a client, rather than what happens is we can have them burn more calorie if we change the intensity of the workout, because in that process calories are burned and muscles are gained too. It's more efficient than a conventional part of a cardio, just like that.
Mhm. Nice. So, finally, like, any advice for someone who wants to take this as a profession? What what advice would you give them?
I would say that we have to ask ourselves hard question, that is this something that you really want to do? Because this job is not as easy as it may seem. It's seasonal a job, because we typically train clients and clients have other responsibility, right? That their work responsibility keeps them away from the gym. They have a family, so we have to understand they have family. They needed to take vacation. They have to be away for work. So when that happens, essentially we are not training someone, so we don't get paid. So one has to consider all these aspects, that this is, sometimes it's like weather, sometimes it's sunny, sometimes it's, so we have to be cognizant of that there are chances that that's going to happen also. And then if all that, looking at all that, if you still want to uh, go all in, then that's probably the right choice for that particular person. It's definitely rewarding, 100%. And then the feeling is simply awesome when say, some of my client like text me his or her success story, that, oh, I don't believe myself, I was able to do this. Sometimes their family tell them, what happened to you, you look so good, and all that kind of. So that's more like a reward than any amount of money, as far as I'm concerned. And when that happens, then every time it makes me feel that my decision of switching careers is justified.
Mm, that's amazing. Nice. That's very inspirational, actually. So do you ever lose your cool when someone they don't follow whatever you're telling, they don't follow their routine, or do you get mad? Do you get angry?
That's a difficult question to answer. Yeah, I mean, I do tend to do that. Everyone does, but it's what we show. So we have to consider look into the other person's position also. Kind of being objective, right? I mean, I can relate to the IT risk management, that kind of stuff, looking at a risk assessment in an objective manner. So the risk manage was something different in that information risk. In this, I'm a risk professional. I'm managing people's, risk for people's life and betterment, basically. So I have to be as objective as you can, and I can. And people have given their trust in me, like when we give something to an insurance company or something like that, right? For that, so they have put certain trust in me. So if they don't follow for whatever reason, we have to just consider that, look at it is not too personable, look at it as an objective aspect of it, and just hope that they will, come around, and then all will end well later on. So it has happened, but then what I do is I do not keep things to myself. That's in a personal as well as professional life. But in as it comes to professional life, uh, then you have to learn not to show that on your, visibly upset or anything like that. I just try not to say anything at that particular time. I do address when the time is right, the next time when I see someone, because what happen again, I may feel that way, but I have to give benefit of doubt to that person, right? So if the person is in for a training session, something must have happened that uh, they are not feeling themselves, or they are not as energetic or anything, not in a good mood. So I have to be cognizant of that. And then I feel the mood is normal. Then I always express what I felt next time. And there is no exception. Every time I'm thankful that every time I have made my opinion clear or express myself, we have always uh, developed the relation even better with everyone.
That's
So
nice.
that's how I approach, basically.
Okay. My last question is, as a personal trainer, what do you think is better, being doing freelancing or getting a job? in some gym or some fitness school?
It depends, basically, because what happens is, yes and no, because freelancing, you get to keep all money to yourself, but then you have to insurance and all that kind of stuff. You have to are liable for that. More than that, there is not as much equipment, most of the cases, as we will see in a commercial gym. And I'm very much spoiled in that aspect because I work for Lifetime, and it's simply an awesome gym, basically. So much equipment, so many amenities, and so many facilities there. So I have certain tool set in my hand, then that just gives me a better option to come up with a lot of versatile workout routines or programs for client, including nutrition and everything. But it depends, at least. But I would say, as a general rule, a person should spend at least some years working in for someone in a gym, and then depending upon gain experience and depending upon how it is, then can start on their own rather than doing something just as a beginning.
Nice. Thank you so much, Nitin, for all your valuable inputs. I'm sure our viewers, they got lots of information about health, fitness, lots of awareness. Thank you so much for doing this. And any last word for our viewers? Any special tip for their fitness?
I want to thank you first for giving me this opportunity, because I wanted to just share my experiences, not as a fitness professional, but as a my life experiences or anything like that, as it relates to health and fitness. To my viewers, I will say, whatever you pursue, whichever option do you choose, whether you choose to work with someone or your own, just please make sure that you are trying to be as active as possible, and then treat this as a serious business. I mean, health. Basically, prioritize the health in whichever best ways you can. If there are any advice, inputs or any information is needed, people are always welcome to reach out to me. I will do my best to help whoever I can, because that has been the objective ever since I started, switching into the careers. So that's what I would say. Whatever you do, put health as the one of your topmost priority, and try to take care of it the best possible way that suits everyone. I thank you again, Gayatri.
Thank you. It's like Jaan hai to jahan hai. So put
Yeah,
your
exactly. Exactly.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.